February 2026. Outside a Manhattan federal courthouse, cameras flash as two people who once promoted the same film walk out separately, and the distance between them feels bigger than ever. Blake Lively keeps her eyes forward, expression tight. Justin Baldoni emerges later, smiling beside his wife. The body language alone tells a story. But what's unfolding now is far more serious than awkward press moments. It's a $550 million legal war tied to the production of It Ends With Us. And after months of sealed filings and carefully worded statements, the public is finally seeing what was happening behind closed doors. For nearly 2 years, speculation filled the silence. Why did press appearances feel strained? Why did cast interviews seem strategically separated? Why were online fan communities so divided? The answers didn't come from gossip columns. They came from court filings. And in late January 2026, a judge ordered approximately 180 pages of private messages and exhibits unsealed. Text messages, email threads, internal exchanges, conversations that were never meant to leave private phones. What those documents revealed was not a single explosive moment, but a pattern of escalating distrust. Lively's lawsuit alleges that during production she experienced sexual harassment, body shaming, and retaliation after raising concerns. One allegation that immediately captured public attention claims Baldoni entered her trailer while she was breastfeeding. Baldoni has denied the accusation outright, calling the claims false and characterizing the situation as an attempt to damage his reputation and career. His legal team argues that he was the one sidelined, that creative control was slowly pulled away, and that A-list influence reshaped a film he was originally steering. And then there's the money. The combined legal claims and countersuits now orbit around a staggering $550 million figure. That number alone signals how deeply both sides believe reputational harm has occurred. This isn't a quiet settlement dispute. It's an existential fight over credibility, power, and public narrative. But the unsealed texts didn't just highlight legal claims, they exposed tone. In private messages, Lively described feeling increasingly isolated and under pressure. She admitted to becoming digitally paranoid, worried that every word could be misinterpreted or weaponized. In conversations with close friends, she acknowledged feeling like she was losing her sense of self amid the chaos, describing what she called an identity crisis as production tensions mounted. And the leak didn't stop there. Among the most talked about exchanges were texts involving Taylor Swift, Lively's longtime friend. In one message that quickly went viral, Swift allegedly mocked Baldoni for playing the victim, joking about him pulling out a tiny violin. Yet the documents also revealed something more nuanced, moments of strain between Swift and Lively. Swift reportedly called out Lively's increasingly corporate tone in texts, telling her she missed the way she used to communicate before lawyers and PR teams became part of every sentence. It painted a picture not just of loyalty, but of tension created by crisis. And then came the statement no one expected. For months, Ryan Reynolds had stayed quiet. He wasn't a named defendant in the original filing, but his presence lingered in the background. According to the unsealed documents, he had privately described Baldoni in harsh terms, calling him a predatory fraudster and a toxic mess in messages to industry contacts. Critics argued that this crossed from spousal support into active interference. In late January, Reynolds' representatives responded publicly for the first time. They didn't retreat. They didn't soften the language. Instead, they defended his involvement as that of a husband standing behind his wife during what they described as workplace misconduct and retaliation. And in a line that instantly dominated headlines, the statement claimed Reynolds believed he wasn't angry enough. That single phrase reframed everything. Because this case is no longer just about what happened on a film set. It's about power dynamics inside Hollywood, about who gets believed, who gets protected, and how narratives are shaped when billion-dollar reputations are on the line. With the trial now officially set for May 18, 2026, the stakes are no longer theoretical. Witness lists reportedly include major names from the couple's inner circle. Legal teams are preparing for testimony that could dissect private conversations in open court, and the failed settlement efforts suggest neither side is willing to quietly walk away. This isn't just a celebrity feud anymore. It's a case study in how private grievances become public battles, and how text messages, once sent casually between friends, can become the most powerful evidence in a courtroom. On February 11, 2026, both sides walked into a federal building in New York for what insiders described as a last-ditch attempt to stop this from going to trial. A judge had ordered a mandatory settlement conference, the legal equivalent of telling two people at war to sit down and try one more time to find common ground. They were there for 6 hours. 6 hours in the same building, 6 hours with mediators going back and forth between rooms, and according to multiple reports, they refused to be in the same room together. When it was over, there was no handshake, no joint statement, no hint of compromise. Baldoni's attorney, Brian Friedman, confirmed the talks were unsuccessful. The case would move forward. The optics outside the courthouse were almost cinematic, but the tension was very real. Lively exited first, alone, her expression controlled but visibly tight. Baldoni walked out later holding hands with his wife, smiling broadly at photographers. To supporters, it looked like confidence. To critics, it looked provocative. Social media split instantly into camps, dissecting facial expressions like they were evidence exhibits. But behind that courthouse moment was something even more telling. Neither side appears willing to blink. According to court filings, Lively's team believes the unsealed messages strengthen their position, that they demonstrate a pattern of retaliation once she raised concerns during filming. They argue the texts reveal how public narratives were shaped in real time, and how she felt increasingly isolated as backlash mounted online. Baldoni's team, meanwhile, claims the same documents prove something entirely different. They argue the messages show coordinated reputation damage, that powerful allies were mobilized behind the scenes to frame him before the full story was known. His defense centers on the idea that he was cut out creatively, professionally undermined, and publicly branded without due process. And this is where the stakes get even higher, because this trial won't just examine on-set behavior, it will scrutinize private communications between A-list figures, publicists, agents, and executives. It will ask whether influence crossed into interference. It will ask whether support crossed into defamation. The discovery phase has reportedly expanded the witness pool dramatically. Names circulating in filings include major celebrities from the couple's inner circle, people who attended private meetings, exchanged texts, or were present during key conversations. If called to testify, those witnesses could be questioned under oath about what they saw, what they heard, and what they believed at the time. That's why the failed settlement matters so much. Most high-profile Hollywood disputes never reach a courtroom. They settle quietly, often with confidentiality clauses. But once both parties walk away from mediation empty-handed, it signals something deeper than financial disagreement. It signals principle, or pride, or absolute confidence in their evidence. And then there's the timeline. The trial date, May 18, 2026, is now locked in. That gives both sides just months to finalize arguments, depose witnesses, and prepare for what could become one of the most publicized entertainment industry trials since the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard defamation case. That comparison has already surfaced in unsealed messages, where Reynolds allegedly referenced the online frenzy that accompanied that earlier courtroom spectacle. The difference here is that this case sits at the intersection of workplace misconduct allegations and celebrity power politics. It forces jurors and the public to weigh two competing narratives. Was this a director abusing authority and retaliating when challenged? Or was this a powerful Hollywood couple leveraging influence to take control of a project and sideline the original creative force behind it? By the time both sides left that courthouse on February 11th, one thing was clear: no private agreement would resolve this. The next time they face each other in a legal setting, it will likely be in open court, with cameras outside, transcripts inside, and every word preserved for the public record. And when that happens, those 180 pages of unsealed texts won't just be gossip fuel anymore. They'll be evidence.
As the trial date approaches, the spotlight has shifted from what was said publicly to what can actually be proven in court. At the center of Lively's claims is the allegation that the environment on the set of It Ends With Us became increasingly hostile after she raised concerns. Her filing describes instances of inappropriate comments, unwanted behavior, and what she characterizes as a coordinated effort to discredit her once tensions escalated. The accusation that Baldoni entered her trailer while she was breastfeeding remains one of the most emotionally charged claims in the case, one Baldoni has firmly denied, calling it categorically untrue. Her legal team argues that the fallout didn't stop at the set. They claim there was a broader reputational impact, that narratives were subtly shaped to portray her as difficult, controlling, or unprofessional. In the age of viral clips and anonymous industry leaks, perception can spread faster than fact. According to her filing, that perception damage is part of why the financial demand is so high. Baldoni's defense tells a starkly different story. He maintains that he did not harass or retaliate against Lively and insists that creative disagreements were reframed as misconduct after the relationship deteriorated. His legal strategy centers on power imbalance, but inverted from Lively's framing. He argues that once tensions surfaced, he was the one outmatched, that A-list star power, elite representation, and influential friendships created an environment where his version of events was drowned out before he had a chance to respond. And this is where Ryan Reynolds' involvement becomes legally delicate. While Reynolds is not the primary defendant in the harassment allegations, the unsealed texts introduced questions about influence. His messages, in which he allegedly criticized Baldoni in blunt and inflammatory terms, could be examined not just for tone, but for impact. Did those private communications stay private, or did they shape industry conversations behind the scenes? Reynolds' public statement reframed his actions as protective, a husband witnessing what he believed was mistreatment. But in a courtroom, intention and effect are separate questions. A jury may be asked to consider whether his involvement escalated tensions or simply reflected loyalty. Then there's the Taylor Swift factor. Although she is not a central legal party, her name appearing in court exhibits elevated the case into an even broader cultural moment. Swift's reported texts, including the now viral tiny violin remark, added emotional texture to the dispute. But the documents also revealed moments of strain between her and Lively, hinting at how prolonged legal battles can ripple through even the closest friendships. If called as a witness, Swift would likely face questions not about gossip but about context, what she understood at the time, what she was told, and whether she observed anything firsthand. The same could apply to other high-profile figures rumored to be on preliminary witness lists. Their testimony wouldn't just attract headlines, it could influence credibility. Because ultimately, this case may hinge less on dramatic text messages and more on consistency. Jurors will be asked to examine timelines. Who reported what and when? Were complaints documented? Did behavior change after concerns were raised? Were reputational narratives organically formed or strategically guided? The $550 million figure underscores that this isn't a symbolic litigation. It's a battle over career longevity. A verdict could redefine how studios handle on-set disputes involving major stars. It could also reshape how celebrities communicate privately, knowing that even casual messages might one day be projected on courtroom screens. By May 18, 2026, the narrative will move from speculation to sworn testimony, and when that happens, the public won't be debating facial expressions outside a courthouse anymore. They'll be watching credibility under oath, where every word carries weight, and where Hollywood influence meets federal procedure.